So, Seamus, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
No problem. I'm actually not sure if you've listened to any of our previous episodes, but I put people on the spot straight off the bat where I ask you in 10 seconds or less, what is it that you do?
I am a coach, a mentor, and I am a father and a husband. What I do is I help fit pros create a more profitable business, and I help other people change their lives around by shifting beliefs within themselves.
Nice.
Was that 10 seconds? Do you time it?
I did. I think it was 11 or 12.
Not too bad then.
It'll pass. No, good. It's a mini test for kind of people to. I probably should give people a bit of warning when I do this. It gives you no time to think about it.
That way you get a better response.
It creates a bit of context as well for the episode. But yeah, I suppose let's dig a little deeper into that first, Seamus, and just give people a little bit of context behind, I suppose, the mindset and performance aspect of things of what you do first and foremost.
Yeah. So, I suppose giving people, listeners, a bit of context, I've been involved in the personal training industry for the last 15 years as a personal trainer, as a coach, working with a lot of different types of people, general population, working with a lot of athletes, working with teams, etc. Throughout that 15 years as a coach and personal trainer, I have been fortunate enough to be able to open up different facilities within the fitness industry as well, like from boot camps and personal training studios, etc. Which has then led me on to, over the last couple of years, being a coach within the fitness industry, helping other fit pros create a more profitable business, understand social media marketing better, understand the systems within the business better, so that they can develop themselves through the fitness industry in a much more enjoyable way. Let's say we know ourselves, like how kind of fragile the fitness industry is for people. Most people don't make it past a year or even 2 years as a personal trainer. And for us, for me and my business partner, it was trying to, how do we bridge that gap for people in the fitness industry who have just become qualified, getting past that 2 to 3 year mark and actually creating something that they really, really enjoy. For me, over the last 15 years as a coach, I've always been really interested in mindset, just due to my own circumstances when I was younger and trying to change my own results in life. So psychology and mindset, and discovering how I can change my own beliefs around, develop my own mindset further, has been something that I've devoured over the last 15 years, which has led me on to multiple different courses and multiple other consultants and mentors within that field, and then developing that within myself and developing my own course and helping other people do the same thing.
Brilliant. And I think as well, though, it's reassuring to hear the path you've gone down and your journey to date, because you have a facility, you coach real life people in this. And I said this when you come on to do a webinar for our members only last week as well. And straight off the bat, you could see that there's a little bit more trust put into you, because our members know that we're so involved in their lives, and that we don't just give them one piece of information and then they go away and train and completely change their life. It's a consistent process over time. And I think there's merit in that. It's all well and good myself and yourself going off paying thousands upon thousands for courses and developing our own kind of personal growth and then applying it to people. But if you don't do it in a real scenario, a real setting, I think it can kind of get muddled along the way. Again, context is kind of what we're after here. I just think it's powerful. So from that, Seamus, I got you on last week for our own members to talk around mindset overall, to talk about habits, to talk about beliefs. And I think some of the biggest takeaways which prompted this podcast was that whole belief realm. We react in certain ways based on our past experiences. And what you've done for myself and for our clients was you just kind of opened that up for us to realize that we can react in better ways.
Yeah.
And it's not just about COVID-19 in the middle of it, we're in the middle of now. It's about everyday life. It's about your training. It's about your nutrition. It's about your relationships. It goes so much deeper than that. So I suppose, I'm going to open a can of worms by saying first, how can we react better?
How can we react better? Probably the short answer to that is try not to react, but try and respond. Because when we react, we're usually triggered by something. And when we react from that state of mind, a lot of the times the response that we get back is usually not something that can be constructive or positive, let's say. So I think the big thing is people are reacting right now. They're reacting to fear. They're reacting to anxiety. They're reacting to everything that's going on around them, which is understandable. And to say that I am not any different would be a lie, because I have been for the last 5 weeks. As I posted on my social media the other day, it's been like a roller coaster. And I think I've discovered more about myself in the last 5 weeks than I possibly have in the last 5 years. Like, there has been certain triggers, there has been times where I'm reacting. And I think the first stage is just kind of being more aware. Like, what are we reacting to? Like, what are those triggers? Like, what is leading us like in the position of not feeling that we're in control? And as I was saying to yourself and your guys as well too, it's learning to be more aware of like what we're losing control over. And for us at this time, and for me especially, and for people that I'm coaching, is controlling that input. It's like, what are we allowing into our minds right now that is actually giving those reactions? And if we can be more aware around that, then we're already creating the first stage of prevention, basically. But if we are just unconscious to it all and we're reacting constantly, then we're always going to be triggered. We're always going to be in a state of heightened anxiety, and our emotions are kind of going to be all over the place, which isn't what we want right now. Not during COVID, especially, but at any time in our lives. Like, if we want to be moving forward consistently and we want to be moving forward constructively, we need to be in control.
Yeah. Where, I suppose, yeah, where do we even start though? Where would you pull that layer back to? You said awareness there, you said different inputs. Is awareness the first step?
Awareness is the first step, 100%. If we are not aware of how we're feeling, if we're not aware of our results, if we're not aware of our reactions and like what is actually giving us the feedback, if we're not aware at all, let's say, like, we're always going to be unconscious. And when we're unconscious, we're just running off a program. We're running off a belief system or a subconscious program that a lot of the times we have been conditioned to.
Mm-hmm.
And until we look at possibly our results, like, is the results that we're achieving right now what we want? Do we feel how we want? Do we look how we want? Are we moving in the direction that we really want to? Then if we're not, then we need to become more aware of our results. So if we want to change our results, that's the first. I think the results that we have right up until this point is kind of the first stage of awareness. Right? If we're not feeling content and we're not feeling happy, we're not feeling fulfilled, we don't feel like we're on purpose, then that's a sure sign to say that something needs to change.
Mm. And for the change to happen, for that input to change, is it as, I know it's not as easy as saying, oh, just change what you're putting in and feed your mind better. Like, it's not as easy just to do that. And you can't just give someone a soundbite and they go off and do that. But like, how do we change that? Like, does that come back to habit formation?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's like, right, well, let's say you have results in your personal life that you don't, maybe you're not actually looking how you want, maybe you're overweight, maybe you're not feeling how you want, but you're still repeating the same process. You're still consistently repeating the same patterns and the same old habits. Like, why is that? Like, consciously, we might say that we want to look better, feel better, and have better results, but unconsciously, all our habits are taking us in a different direction. So why is that happening? Well, from like all the study that I've done and from looking at people who have coached, usually there's an unconscious belief or something at a subconscious level that is kind of preventing us from moving forward. Maybe a negative self-image, maybe a limiting belief that you don't believe that you're good enough or to be fitter and healthier. Again, there's a lot of different things and aspects around that. But again, we need to look at the results. We need to look at, right, well, why am I not taking this action? Like, consciously, you say you want to do it, but every single thing that you do leads you to a different direction or to a different result. And I think identifying that first and foremost, again, it's not going to be like reading a book and you're going to actually change. There's a lot of work, there's a lot of questioning, there's a lot of writing, there's a lot of things that we need to do to try and reprogram our mind to actually move in the direction that we want.
There's a lot of reality that needs to set in as well. I think people's expectations are skewed when they want to start something. Like, obviously we're using the scenario here of somebody who maybe carrying a bit of extra weight that they don't want. They want to change that, but really what they need to change is their overall lifestyle, their overall routines, their habits, their daily behaviors. But I don't think they're not that aware of it until they get into the thick of it.
Yeah.
And that's why as well, it's so easy for people just to give up once they're a few weeks or a few months into maybe a training or nutritional kind of regime. There's also the other side of that realm though. Like it depends on who is actually doing that with you as well. Like if you're doing a slimming world versus somebody who's evidence-based and coaching you through habits, whatnot, that they're two different things. So I feel sorry for those people because they're, even though they want to change, they're still being led down a wrong path in my eyes. But one thing that you said there brought back to mind that book that we talked about last week was Maxwell Maltz. What's the name? It's Psycho-Cybernetics, yeah. And he was just talking about our self-image and like how that is the foundation of everything. Like if we don't have a positive kind of self-image, kind of everything else is going to take a hit. And he was talking about like the habits that need to be in play so basically our behaviors are dictating our results. But if our kind of self-image is skewed, it's like the limiting factor on how far you can go with things. So it's kind of like driving a Ferrari, but the limiter only goes to 20 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I think that's such a good analogy. Like, so, but when we talk about self-image, I think it's really built around the beliefs that we had from the past.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's a nice little thing to pigeonhole into from here, Seamus. Like, what is a belief like? And why do we attach ourselves to those beliefs so much that do end up limiting us?
Yeah, well, beliefs a lot of the time come from where? Authority. Like we believe in something that like a person in a position of authority has actually told us. We take that on and we actually believe it. And then when it's subconscious belief, like it starts to create a reality, which again harnesses our beliefs and reinforces those beliefs. Now, we've all been conditioned from the day we're born right up until this point. Our beliefs have been handed down to us from our family, religion, environment, the news, marketing, everything that we watch is a belief. And I think it was Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he said a belief is nothing more than a group of cells that have been reinforced. So when you look at it from a neurological standpoint, it's just a pathway in the brain. And that thought process is being reinforced every time we give it that energy or that thought. It reinforces that belief. And when we reinforce that belief, again, it comes through our reality and what we're experiencing, which again reinforces that belief. So for us to change those beliefs, we have to like realize that we can, first and foremost, actually change them. That beliefs aren't necessarily true facts. And if a belief that you have limiting you from actually achieving what you want to achieve is like really preventing you from moving forward, then how do we go about changing that? Which is, right, first identifying what that belief is, and then trying to rewrite that belief. Like asking yourself, is this belief actually true? Like, is there any merit? Is it validated? Like, who has ever actually said this belief is true? And has it actually been shown up in your life through other people to say that, yes, I need to believe in this because it's actually is true? And when you look at your results and you look at your beliefs sometimes, like again, a lot of them are just completely false. But they hold us back. They hold so many of us back. I know for myself that when I started to really work on myself and change a lot of my limiting beliefs, then the actions that I took, my behavior started to change, and the results that I started to achieve changed massively. And you talk about psycho-cybernetics, and Maxwell Maltz was a fantastic book, and he talks about specifically around that self-image and that cybernetic mechanism. He said like a cybernetic mechanism is like a plane, like autopilot in a plane. He said, so like that autopilot in a plane will have a destination. It knows where it wants to go and where it needs to go. It might deviate due to weather and thunderstorms, etc. But that cybernetic mechanism, that automatic mechanism, will bring it back on course to hit that destination. And he relates that back to us and our self-image. So let's say you started to do well for a while, you started to lose weight and you started to succeed, but your negative self-image or that internal cybernetic mechanism isn't actually matched up to where you're heading. We will do some type of behavior, usually destructive or self-sabotaging, to bring ourselves back on course again until we really change that deeper image that we hold of ourselves to match up to who it is that we really want to be moving forward.
Yeah. And I think I'm going to spend a few seconds just clarifying that a bit further, because I think some people might have got lost in the middle of that plane journey. No, just like, because I know when I first read Psycho-Cybernetics, and I remember I went through like the first couple of chapters and he was on about our brain as a servo mechanism. And I think you can simplify those words a little bit. Like I actually talked about Monday of this week with our own clients, saying our mind is as a machine. Yeah. And kind of like the inputs are going to dictate the outputs of that. So like what you feed it, what you put into the machine is going to be a direct correlation to what comes out, but that machine is going to run no matter what. If you don't put that in, stuff is still going to go into it, but you're just not directing that focus. The machine then is also limited by, as we said, our self-image, or kind of the beliefs that we have. And I think some people, when they hear the word beliefs, again, I think this has been done to death by personal trainers, by life coaches that do a 6-week course online. They think they're a life coach, but yet they live a single life and have no kids and no experience. And they're 27. But I think though, like, beliefs can be something as simple as believing that, I can't build muscle because I'm not willing to train to failure. So there's probably two beliefs there. There's beliefs that you have to train to failure, and number two, well, that's probably one, like, but they can be as simple as that. Another one that we actually came up last week was, I might have mentioned this in the webinar with yourself, how a lot of us are brought up around dinner time. So, you have to finish your plate. You have to finish every food in your plate, and if you don't, whatever. It wasn't reinforced that much in my family, but I know my grandparents used to do it. If we were over there visiting or whatever, and you were given out to, like, if you didn't finish your plate. But that seeds into people, like, if they're out in a restaurant, they don't feel bad because they've paid for that meal, but they're leaving a big chunk on the side, because the kids are going to die in Africa and you're not finishing your plate. Like, I don't know where I heard it recently, but it was like, you're not going to fucking solve kids dying in Africa by you not finishing your plate. Like, it's as harsh as it sounds, but it's true. Like, but I think beliefs can start that small, but they can also go into super big things as well.
Yeah, and like, again, you can look at it, is it nature or is it nurture? Like, that really actually gives us the results we achieve. And the studies have shown that it's nurture. Like, it is conditioning. Like, it's what we're growing up around, what we're listening to, what we're taking on board, like those things like that. This was the same in my house. I'm the youngest of 7. My parents were elderly, let's say. Like, my mom is now 81. So her beliefs and how she grew up and the things that she handed down, and plus my father, like, it was that type of like survival of the fittest type thing. You need to eat, and you need to make sure you do this, and you need to make sure you do that. Again, like my parents and your parents and everybody's parents are just helping everybody in terms of what they know and their understanding, etc. But again, it is conditioning a lot of the times, and when we, like, look back at some of the things that we've possibly believed that have stopped us from moving forward, sometimes it's nearly laughable. Like, way to stop us.
That conditioning, though, is a powerful word as well, because how do we get stronger in the gym? How do we get fitter? We condition ourselves by repetition of stuff over time, and the same goes for what you feed your mind. And I told you, like, we do these 90-day goals workshops for our clients year round. When our new clients join the gym, we'll help them set shorter term goals, and all we kind of get them to do is to think about the why behind that goal, so that then we can actually articulate the goal, and then move down to the habits and the behaviors, which is the most important stuff. So I am invested in, learning about this and making sure that we can get it across in layman's terms for our clients. But even myself, I forget the most basic stuff. Yeah. The biggest thing you highlighted for me last week was what I'm feeding myself. And especially now during COVID, like the first few weeks, it was panic mode. It was a reaction. It was kind of that, like, evolution of change, like going through that alarm phase. Oh shit, the whole world's going to end. What do I do? Yeah. And you're just scrambling. You're acting based on your experiences and your conditioning to date. And this can go back to as simple as somebody cutting you off in a car traffic jam, and you go cracked and you start blowing the horn. Because I know I used to be that person. Call them every name under the sun. But like, over time, it's like, if the phone rang beside me now, I wouldn't react and panic and start sweating because the phone's ringing and I'm doing a podcast. I'd probably put my hand down to silence it and turn it in silent without you probably even knowing. Versus in the past, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago, I would have just panicked. Do you know what I mean? Like those little things as well. But this all comes back to our conditioning. And like I said, things have to be fed, things have to be done, and it has to be kept up. Like, 100%. And yeah, like, do you want to give a few more examples of maybe some current beliefs that you think are big for holding people back, and how do they go about changing them? I think maybe that's a good thing to pigeonhole to from here.
In terms of like fitness industry or like,
yeah, like I think it might be no harm given, like, just this could be anything. Pick one.
again, there's tons. Like there's a lot of beliefs that we all have and we're still not even conscious of. But like the common ones that people don't deserve. Like people a lot of times believe that they don't actually deserve success, or that they aren't good enough to like achieve what it is that they want to achieve. Especially when it comes to people looking to achieve fitness, health and fitness goals. Like the biggest one is like at a deeper level, like they don't believe that they deserve it. I don't know whether it comes from, like, again, that conditioning, what they've heard, somebody said something to them, whatever it may be. Like not believing that you deserve success, or not believing that you deserve to be fitter and healthy. Like, how is that affecting your behaviors? Well, that's massive. Like, you're never actually going to take the action that's required to actually go about being that fitter and healthier person, because at a deeper level, you just simply don't believe it. Just because of maybe somebody had said something negative, somebody said something derogatory, or an experience that you had as well too when you were younger, those kind of hardwired that into your system. And now everything that you do every single day is according to that. So again, I don't think it's as simple as just saying, like, pick a few limiting beliefs, because there's so many and people have so many as well too. But I think the first step, again, as I said at the start, is look at your results. Like, where is it that you want to go? What is it that you're not happy with right now? Like, what's showing up consistently in your life that is not exactly what you want? Is it your health? Is it your weight? Is it your income? Is it your business? Whatever it may be. If it's not functioning how you want, then in my experience, there's usually something subconsciously there that's stopping you from actually really moving forward.
Yeah, it's like, I know I'm giving you such a broad thing to try and think up of there, give people an example of a belief, but it is an individual thing. But I suppose some that we see as well, just from a general nutritional standpoint. I have a sweet tooth.
Yeah.
I'm really bad for eating sweets. I'm really bad for whipping out a pack of biscuits in the evening. I can't stick to a diet. 2 weeks in, I lose track. Obviously,
everyone in my family is overweight.
Yeah.
Very common one.
I'm big boned. But I think, obviously, I want to mention as well, if somebody, let's just say they fall off the wagon 3 or 4 weeks into a diet, it's not just because you've conditioned yourself into that and you believe that. There's also the fact that the way you're going about that diet, we can't ignore that. You have to be doing that sensibly as well, or whatever. But I think when you start to become aware of the things that you're telling yourself, and we kind of flip those on their head, we change the story, so to speak. We also, from what I know, we also have to back that up now with kind of new evidence to prove that that belief is true, if that makes sense. Is that
when we're getting some momentum, when we start to see the results coming in, and we start to like actually believe in ourselves more. And again, like sometimes, like when you're starting out, it's about borrowing someone else's belief, like someone else's belief in you. Like I know for a fact, like when I started out years ago, before I actually became a personal trainer, I was a bodybuilder. And like it was a coach at that time who gave me more belief in myself, who really gave me the momentum that I needed. So I was borrowing his belief in me, and that gave me the momentum, that gave me the action, that gave me the results. And you know yourself that when you start to do that consistently, you grow in confidence, you grow in more self-belief, and you're just harnessing that self-belief within yourself. So yeah, like let's say go along and borrow someone else's belief in the beginning until you get the results that you're looking for, until you keep moving forward, and then you do start to believe in yourself more.
That's why our roles are so important too, though, Seamus. Like, take a gym setting, for example. Like the amount of clients that have started with us, and I think like the pink 8 kilo kettlebell is really, really heavy.
Yeah.
How many, 6 months later, they're squatting 60 kilos for reps. And they nearly forget to look back until you tell them, and then they realize that. But yes, then they start to take on their own kind of other stuff that they start changing after themselves. But as a coach, we're instilling that belief into them. And we're there as a kind of positive mechanism, or positive feedback mechanism for them, to let them know that you're doing fine, keep going. And we see, like in my online clients who I don't meet or don't train in the gym, I see that through nutrition and some simple mindset stuff. A lot of the time it's reassuring them and making sure, or I suppose, again, instilling that simple belief into them, which builds momentum over time. Because you as the coach, you're able to see it from that angle, and you're like, hold on a minute, you didn't have a shit week. Like, you still trained twice, you still did X, Y, and Z, you did all this stuff. And as humans, we don't see that. I know I'm very bad for that until sometimes my wife reminds me, or fellow coaches in the gym remind me, you stop being so hard on yourself. You've done X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And we're terrible for that. We're shit at that. And like you've said it yourself, you've had mentors for this kind of stuff and probably still do. And I know I do. But that's, I suppose what I'm trying to say is it highlights how important it is having that coach kind of guiding you along the way. Because I do believe in some regard that everybody does need a coach. I went to a few years when I first started Doc Fitness. I had a coach for nearly 3 years, kind of came away from it, lost my way a little, and now I'm back having a coach again from a business standpoint and from a gym owner standpoint. And like, it reminds you of what's possible, because I kind of told myself that, oh, we can't do X, Y, and Z because of X, Y, and Z, you know, again, beliefs and conditioning over the years. So yeah, just, I suppose as I'm talking here, light bulbs are going off my own head, left, right, and center. So I'm hoping people are thinking the same at home.
Last thing, I did a webinar in a group that I have, and it was on like self-talk. And there's a few personal trainers, gym owners in that group as well too. This is a mindset course that I have. And again, things were ringing true for those guys in terms of how they're actually like coaching their clients, and that negative self-talk that we all have. And I always remember like what people are reinforcing to themselves in terms of negativity. Like as you say, like a lot of people won't believe that they can achieve that weight loss or like squat 100 kg or whatever it may be. And I remember like having a client in my office a few years back and speaking to this person, and she was really, really upset. And we were like going through her goals and how she was feeling, etc. And I said there, like, have you ever heard of or even like done anything like auto suggestion in terms of like positive affirmations and things like that? And she was like, no. She says, what are they? And I says, well, it's like you affirming to yourself how you want to feel, like how you want to show up, the results you want to achieve. Like, let's say I am happy, I am healthy, I am beautiful. And she started laughing. And I was like, what are you laughing at? She said, no way, I would never talk to myself like that. I said, right, okay, but hold on, hear me out. You tell yourself that you're not good enough, don't you? You tell yourself that you could never achieve X, Y, and Z. You tell yourself that you're not healthy, you're not beautiful, that you are overweight, and you accept that. So what's the difference? Like, why would you not accept something else?
That's powerful.
And again, like, and this is so common, we accept the negative first. And negative, like, is a lot more powerful than the positive. And you look at the news right now, if you try and put something out positive, it's getting lost. Like, everything is negative right now, and people tune into it faster. And not only that, again, like, if we have certain beliefs that have shown up again consistently, trying to get them to believe in something that's positive by affirming that themselves at the start is hard for them to actually fathom and believe in it. But again, we can do it. And as you said, it's about conditioning. If we start to recondition our mind to a new belief, we start to recondition our mind to something different, then we start to feel different. And when we start to feel different, we take different actions. When we take different actions, we usually get different results, which again gives us that momentum. So again, like, just being aware even of self-talk right now. Like, what is it that you're saying to yourself consistently? Is it matching up to how you want to feel? Are you being destructive in your own self-talk? Are you consistently putting yourself down, pulling yourself down? Because you can change that. And again, it's about raising awareness around it. Like, what is that internal dialogue right now? And is it serving you? And if it's not, well, let's look at changing it.
That's a powerful way of putting it, though. I didn't even think of it that way. That should hit home for a lot of people, because if you even look at where I grew up, everything is GAA focused. You know, you grew up with a dress from lads all your life, and like, the older you get, the ego gets big in groups of lads, and it's all about outdoing each other and competitiveness and everything else. But underneath that all, everyone's soft. And I know that because I am a lad, like, and I'm not afraid to say it. But everyone is just a soft fucking child underneath it all. Yeah. And lads are afraid to express any form of emotion. Like, I think I have no problem expressing it sometimes. But when I first heard of the word affirmation, I thought it was the most far-fetched thing going. I thought, would you fuck off? Affirmations? What are you talking about? But I think people, obviously it came from somebody who I would have seen as a tree-hugging hippie.
Yeah.
And when I just think of my environment where I grew up, and, you know, it's all about like lads, you wouldn't have any girl friends where I'm from. You know, it just didn't happen really, like. And when you hear that, it's like you just think in your head, oh, I'm going to be talking to myself in front of lads or in front of my family member. No, it's not about that. Like you don't have to say it out loud if you don't want to. You can think this stuff. But I think just changing the way we perceive it.
Yeah.
Like if I can kind of change the way I think about things just so I can live a fucking happier and healthier life.
Yeah.
You know, like even saying that, it sounds a bit corny and cheesy. I understand that, and I always back that up by saying that, because I know that this might fall on a lad's ears who has never been exposed to stuff before, and the second he hears it, he's like, "Oh, good luck, gone, earphones off." I don't want that to happen for people, you know. So putting across that way, yeah, we're telling ourselves X, Y, and Z in our mind.
Yeah.
We're telling ourselves we're not good enough. We're telling ourselves that we can't do this or we can't achieve that goal or whatever it is. Why not just change that fucking story?
Yeah. There's a great interview with Tom Billey, Impact Theory. Have you ever listened to him, his podcast?
Is he?
There's a guy called Trevor Moawad. I think I'm pronouncing it right anyway. Trevor Moawad on, and he's fantastic. I'll send you a link after this and get a listen to it. And what he talks about is he was working with athletes in the States, UFC fighters, really high performing athletes all across the board in all different sports, CEOs of like multi-million pound companies and multi-billion pound companies, and getting them to change their mindset. And what he was doing was he was getting them to be aware of the negativity that they were replaying, and not only that, saying and affirming. He said, so look, I wasn't going to come on here and start saying, right, let's change it all. We're going to actually start doing positive affirmations. I want you to start being this positive guy. I want you to shout to yourself, I'm happy, healthy, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't going to go down.
Fuck off.
It wasn't going to go down. So what I got them to do was, right, we actually started doing tests. And he names a university, like, it's not springing to mind right now, but they were able to like see that the negative affirmation, the negative thought was 7 to 10 times more powerful than a positive thought. But when you actually spoke that negativity and spoke and affirmed that thought, then you were making it like 4 times more powerful again. So what he started to do with his athletes and the people that he was coaching was he started to get them to be more aware of the negative thought and what they were saying and get them to cut it out. He didn't get them to start like reciting affirmations and positive things. He just said, for now, all I want you to do is stop talking the fucking negative shit that you don't want to happen. He says, let's just stop it. And he started doing it across the board with athletes. And what I started to see was the change in their behaviors, the change in their psychology, the change in how they were feeling, and then gradually the change in results and performance teetered out across the teams and the athletes that he was working with. So by just not affirming the negative stuff to yourself, you're already starting to change your psychology. You're already starting to change like how you're feeling, which again is going to affect performance and results. So maybe you don't want to believe in the affirmations in a positive sense, but you can certainly stop talking negative and you can certainly stop affirming it.
I think though, athletes as well has a direct correlation to somebody who's doesn't play a sport.
Yeah.
Because like I see it, I'm still involved in my local hurling club, my hurling team, and like, you know, someone drops a ball, it's like, oh fuck, shit, fuck. They're reacting in such a shitty way, like, whereas just like, just go back and try and get it and continue on, you know. And you're not going to say that in the middle of a hurling game, but sometimes you just wonder like how much better certain people who play in games could be. And I notice this when we play other teams as well, like, you know, just the way some people react, like it's mad. And you know, like you can react better, like, and you can view things as a learning curve. It's the same with your diet, it's the same with your training. And when you start to adopt that and you start to repeatedly tell yourself that, as you said at the start, you're firing these kind of cells that are going to reaffirm that. And I think that's just like, it's everything. It's powerful as hell, because, you know, you're thinking these thoughts daily. And that's kind of all I have to really say on it, Seamus. I'm not going to go too much more deeper, because I think already what we've covered is enough to make people aware of this stuff and hopefully get them to think on a different level so they can start to open up doorways and pathways into new stuff.
When I listened to that YouTube video, what sprung to mind was Steven Gerrard a few years back when Liverpool were in the last game of the season. They were ready to claim the title. And if you remember it, I'm not too sure if you watch soccer, but they were all kind of around in the huddle at the very start of the game. And he said, we do not let this slip. We do not let this slip. And he's affirming the negative. What happens in the second half? The ball comes to him. He actually slips through and scores. and they fucking lost the title that year.
Oh.
Like, it was one of the last games of the season. And again, in that video, he gives a lot more context and other demonstrations of that. But when I listened to that, I was like, is that the same type of thing? Like, again, like, he's reaffirming the negative to himself. And if you're reaffirming the negative to yourself, like when you're doing it consistently, are you reprogramming your subconscious? Possibly. And then your behaviors will slightly change because of that. Again, I'll send you on the link and you can listen.
Yeah, I'll put that in the show notes as well for this episode, and we'll also pop up the cybernetics book as well. But I suppose I'll just on what you said there, it limits you again. Like, it goes back to what we said at the start. You're just limiting yourself straight off the bat when you're telling yourself these things.
Yeah.
You know, that think of it from a diet perspective. When you have that kind of all or nothing mentality, or I'm either 100% on it or I'm not at all. Like, you're straight away, you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
And yeah, like, it's just you can't. How do you expect to go further when you're constantly putting the brakes on things mentally? But the funny thing is, you don't even realize you're doing it.
Yeah, that's the thing. The vast majority of the population are unconscious. Most people get up in the morning the exact same way, do the exact same things, have the exact same rehearsal, perform the exact same habits without ever really thinking about it, come back, watch TV, go to bed, and repeat. Like, a lot of the times we're just unconscious and we're just running off a program. And for me, it's, and everybody else that's listening, like, if we aren't moving in the direction that we want, then we look at our results and then we need to change, like, what is that program? Like, what are those habits? What are those beliefs? What are those limiting factors? And how do we actually really start to create that change? And the first step, again, as I've said constantly, is just about being more aware. If you're not feeling how you want, if you're not moving in that direction, then look at what we need to change.
Because imagine if people started telling themselves a different story and they brought down these barriers. Like, imagine how far they can get.
Yeah, and that's all it is. A story. Literally, like, it's just a story. Like, it's a story that you're repeating yourself. You can tell yourself whatever story you want, and you can believe in a different story, whether that's positive or negative. Again, like, we have the ability to condition our minds to do different things. It takes a bit of time and a bit of work and consistency, and it takes determination, and it takes, I feel that you need some type of desire. You have to really want to do it. You have to be on purpose. You have to have a goal of some sort that actually makes you want to do that as well too. Otherwise, if you don't, then you will possibly give up that wee bit faster.
Brilliant. And Seamus, where can people find out more about you?
You can get me on Facebook or on Instagram. Facebook, just Seamus Fox. You can get me on Instagram, again, just Seamus Fox, or a website, which is just SeamusFox.com, www.SeamusFox.com.
I'll link all those up in the show notes for this episode anyway. And yeah, I know we mentioned it last year, but do you want to tell anybody about the kind of courses you have running on your website as well?
Yeah, so at the minute I have an online academy. It's Mindset Junkie Online Academy. And I have the initial 4-week program, which is just coming to an end now next week. I'll be launching the dates and stuff for the next onboarding soon, which will probably be in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I haven't actually finalized the dates yet. But yeah, again, if you want more information on the online academy and creating some real internal changes to produce different results, then by all means reach out and I'll be glad to get a chat, 100%.
Brilliant. Yeah, I think you were saying last week Facebook is probably just the easiest and best way to get you. So I linked all those details up in the show notes, guys. And Seamus, thank you again for coming on.
Excellent, man. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.